In this video I'm gonna be showing how I solve puzzles on everyday basis. Solving puzzles is essential in chess to get better. And if you're struggling with puzzles or chess, this video might give you just the right advice on how to properly solve puzzles. So if you're interested, enjoy the video. In this puzzle we have black pieces. Let's first count the material. We have 5 against 5 pawns. I usually start my calculations with the most forcing moves, which are checks. Rook f4 is a check. It doesn't look like it does anything. I can also take on g3, and if the queen takes, I win the queen, but obviously white is gonna take with the pawn, and we're not winning anything. Now I see that I missed queen c4, which was a check. It still does nothing. Okay, there is this move f4. If bishop takes f4, I win the bishop. But there's rook h3. And if I take on g2, the king goes to f3. That's hardly the solution. Oh wait, there's also rook takes d4. Rook takes d4 attacks the queen and also removes the interfering pawn between my queen and his undefended rook in the corner. Alright, after that, where's the queen gonna go? Let's say to e3. I should be able to just take the bishop on d2 with a check, and then take the rook on a1. What other reasonable alternatives does white have here? Queen c3, then I still should be able to take the bishop. And if king e3 again, I'm just taking the queen with a check. Alright, let's check all the forcing lines for white. And by the way, that's exactly how I want you to solve your puzzles. You don't want to only look for your best moves and expect your opponent to play into your plan. You should constantly try to find the refutation. That's the only way you can get better at chess. So I can see this move rook takes g6. I don't see a reason why I can't just recapture with the pawn, and the queen is still hanging. What about queen e2? No, then I take the bishop, and it's a pin on the queen. So he can only take my rook. He doesn't have this move queen takes d5 check, because our knight is actually covering that pawn. But that's a forcing move for my opponent that you have to consider when you solve puzzles. And what I just noticed that there's this move queen takes f5. And then I take the bishop on d2 with a check. Yeah, the rook on g6 is protected twice, and he has 2 attackers. Once again, rook takes d4, queen takes f5, rook takes d2 check, king e3. Oh, but then I have this move queen d4 check. And if the king moves to f3, there's rook f2, skewering the king and the queen. So let's check my theory. That's correct. He plays rook takes g6. As I said, I should be able to take with a pawn, and I'm fine here. Bishop c3, but I didn't blunder anything because still the rook takes d3. And here the only move should be a rook d2, I think. Because the rook is hanging, any other square is attacked by white. Yeah, so this has to be a solution, but I don't want to make a mistake. So after rook d2 check, am I winning enough material? Rook d2 check, king e3. I have rook takes g2. Let's say bishop c3. Yes, I'm able to win another pawn, and my g and f pawns are very strong in the endgame. Wait, but do I have anything else there? So if I take the bishop, my rook is hanging. Okay, let's go. Rook d2. And that is correct. In the next puzzle, we have 3 against 4. So I can see this e-pawn, and it looks like it should queen, because the king is actually behind the pawn. What I also should consider is the fact that white is also close to promotion. So look at this. if I just push e3, he has c7, then I go e2, and he queens first. And when I queen, he gives me a check on c7. So logically, after I play king d7, and then I get checked by the e6 move. Then I should be able to take the c-pawn, and when e7 happens, I just go king d7 back. He has to spend a move guarding the pawn with king f6. I go e2, and he goes king f7. So that means I queen first, and my queen actually protects the promotion square. So white cannot promote. Yeah, so as I said, the king cannot run after the pawn. It's too slow. What if after king d7 he actually plays e6 right away? So c7, king d7, e6 check, king takes e7, e7, king d7, king f6. Then we play e2, king f7, and I queen. That works. What might not work is actually e3, e6 right away. And then if I play e2, there's c7. And my king doesn't have enough time to get close. And despite the fact that white spends a tempo, we queen at the same time. Maybe that's still the solution because I might have a check there, which wins the queen somehow on the skewer. So let's say queen f2, king g4, queen g2, king f4, queen h2 check. No, I have to play king d6 there. So here I have to play king d6, because if I play e2, there's actually c7, and we queen at the same time. King d6, c7, king takes e7, e7, king d7, king f6, e2, king f7, and I queen. So let's ensure e2 doesn't work. It doesn't, because we queen at the same time, right? So yeah, let's play it. e7. Well, in this case, I take the e-pawn. King f4 still is too slow. So in this puzzle, we have white pieces. And it looks like we're down a pawn again. So let's see what we can do here. I don't have a check. I have this move knight f7. It's kind of a crazy move. I also have another capture, which is queen takes d5. Also doesn't accomplish anything. Okay, I immediately see this move queen c2, which attacks the knight on a4, and it also threatens checkmate in 2. So that has to be the solution. Is there anything wrong with that move? Okay, let's say there's g6. I just take the knight. That's winning. Oh, what am I saying? The queen will take on g5. Queen c2 blunders a knight. Oh no. Then let's look for another move. It will be quite tragic to blunder a knight like this in the middle of a real game, right? So I'm not seeing anything. There might be rook f1 attacking the pawn on f7, but it looks like black just has a defense, which is rook f8. This knight is annoying. Why is it standing there? Maybe it involves the sacrifice of a knight, so maybe I should play queen c2. It doesn't look like it though, because queen takes g5 comes with a check. What about queen g4, with the idea of playing queen h5 and queen h7? Let's say he takes the pawn on c3. Does queen h5 work? It looks like it should work. You cannot push the f-pawn because the knight actually sees the f7 square, so the queen will go to h8 and checkmate black's king. But it looks so flaky, because black actually has king f8, and by the time I play queen h5, black plays king e8 and escapes. So queen g4, king f8. Yeah, so if queen h5, there's king e8. And by the time my queen goes to h8, the king is actually on d7 already. I will grab the g7 pawn though. Does it suffice there? I don't think so. So I don't think queen g4 works, because there's king f8. What else can I do here? I cannot move the queen anywhere but g3 or g4. What if I follow it up by rook f1? So queen g4, king f8, rook f1. Doesn't make any difference. Or what if I change the move order? I play rook f1 first, he plays the rook f8 as the only defense, and I play queen g4. The king is locked in. It looks like checkmate is unstoppable at that point. Once again, rook f1, rook f8, queen g4. Let's look for a good response for black. g6 doesn't work because I just play queen h4 and I still threaten the same checkmate. What about rook f1, f6 right away? My knight is hanging. Can I take with the e-pawn? G takes f6. What do I have there? Knight e6 check, which is the discover check. King f7. And I just take the rook and d8. Is that it? Rook f1, f6. I think I should take with the e-pawn. So e takes f6. The queen is hanging. There's queen e3 check, but I'm not sure I'm scared of that, because I just have king h1, and the g7 pawn is still hanging. So let's do it. Wait. Let's verify I don't have anything else. Knight f7, queen f7, rook f1. Then he just moves the queen. Doesn't work. Alright, rook f1 looks like the only move. Here I should be able to take. That has to be correct. Wait, what if he... No, he doesn't have anything. Queen e3, I just have king h1. So let's look at it after g takes f6. Yes, so Stockfish says knight e6 check. That's what I said. In the fourth puzzle we have black pieces, and it's again an endgame puzzle. We have an equal material, and my first instinct is to just repeat the moves with king a3, king b3. If I play king a3, there's h4. I play king b3, there's h5. And no matter if I take or not, one pawn is sneaking through. So let's look at what happens if I bring the king closer. The king takes on a2, king d3, king b2, king e3, and I got to the pawns. The problem with that is there's h4, and if I play king d3, there's h5, and my king is not in the square. So let's say king e3, pawn takes g6, king takes f4, and the pawn is sneaking through. Doesn't work. What if after king c3 and h4 I play g5, and if f takes e4, have to take with the pawn, and the pawn still manages to queen. Alright, and also after king c3, h4, g5, there's h5. Okay, then I think g5 right away. The idea is if pawn takes g5, I take back with the f-pawn. Then king c3, h4, and I take on h4. g5, h3, g6, h2, g7, h1 queen with check. So I queen with a check, and at the end I have queen g2, which wins the pawn. So g5 is supposed to be correct. Let's say he goes f5. King c3, h4, king d3. No, I have to take on h4. And then we get into the same race. So he can take on f6. I go h2, f7, and I queen with a check. He takes on a2. I play queen g2 check. If king b1, queen b2 is checkmate. And if king a3, there's queen b2 check and queen b4. So that's winning. So let's verify this again. G5 H4, G takes H4, G5 H3, G takes F6 H2, F7, and I queen with a check. That seems to work. Let's play it. Okay, H3. What happens if I play King C3? Okay, let's calm down. King C3 H4. I take. He goes G5. I play H3. He goes G6. I play H2. G7 H1 equals queen. King takes A2, Queen G2. King A3, King B2, King A4, and Queen B4 is checkmate. Okay, but what if he takes the pawn first? King D3, H4. I should be able to take on H4. And then I queen. Alright, let's play it. What? The wrong move? Okay. Oh, now I see why it's a wrong move. Because if King C3, King takes A2, King D3, H4, G takes H4, G5, H3, G6, H2, G7, I queen without a check, and it's a draw. Alright, then maybe I should get closer to the pawn? No, that's also incorrect. Okay, I should just wait for H4 to happen. And now when we get into the pawn race, I actually promote with a check. And to be humorous, we can promote to a rook. So let's briefly summarize the methodology you should use to solve the puzzles. Throughout the video, I was obviously more busy with solving the puzzles themselves than explaining the principles. So number one is you count the material. This will help you get the idea of how much you have to win at least to pass the puzzle. Because in some cases, a puzzle suggests you to win a rook for a knight, or just a rook. But if you're down a queen, it's obviously not winning for you. Number two is you have to start to calculate from the most forcing moves, which are checks, captures, attacks. There are puzzles with quiet moves, so it doesn't necessarily mean that one of those moves will be the correct solution. Number three, when you came up with a move, you have to think of your opponent's best response. A good way might be to flip the board and think what you would play as a response. This will help you rule out incorrect moves and narrow your solution down to one line. Number four is you have to always end your calculation with your opponent's move. So if you paid attention, you actually remember that I failed the third puzzle. And the reason for that is because I didn't calculate the entire line. I just saw that I queen, but I didn't ask myself, does my opponent queen? And if I did ask that question to myself, I would have probably handled the position correctly. Anyway, this was part 1. One of the next videos will be part 2, so stay tuned.